What's up, guys? Bang, bang. Today's episode is packed with insights. We've got Paulina Pompliano joining us, and we go over what's going on with Bitcoin. Why is the price crashing? Should you be worried? And actually, is the price even crashing? Or actually, are we up real big to start the year? We then get into what the future catalyst could be and what I expect to happen with price going into the bull market. On top of that, we break down the OnlyFans business, a bunch of the financials recently linked, and you will be shocked to hear what exactly the owner took home last year in terms of their paycheck. Then we get into SpaceX and what's going on with Starlink, how Elon Musk now controls 2/3 of all active satellites. Is that a good thing, a bad thing, or should we be cheering Elon on? And then lastly, we talk about the presidential debate. We have former President Trump and we have Vice President Harris meeting on stage. I don't think it's going to be much of a debate, but probably not for the reason you think. So make sure you tune in to the end to hear exactly what I think is going to happen in the debate tonight. Here's my conversation with Paulina. All right, Paulina, what first topic you got?
We got Bitcoin is rebounding from its worst week in more than a year. I don't know if you've heard, but Bitcoin jumped Monday evening and topped $57,000 after Wall Street's rebound from its worst week of the year. Seasonality.
This is crazy.
Seasonality is a factor. Analysts have warned that crypto lacks major catalysts at the moment, so maybe that's a reason. And it's more likely to be like sensitive to macro factors. Yeah, and also September, like we talked in last video, is a notoriously bad month for markets.
This entire thing is crazy. Stop it. Stop it. Everyone stop the madness. Bitcoin, which was trading at like $40,000 to start the year, is up, depending on the day, anywhere between 30 to 50%. And people are acting like Bitcoin has drawn down 80% or something. Yes, it is down off the all-time high, but still it is up significantly for the year.
Yeah, wait, just really quick. The fact that we're talking about like Bitcoin in the 50s range as being like worst performing.
I used to dream of the day that people would write headlines, Bitcoin crashing to 55,000 when it was at 3,000, 7,000, 10, 15, 20. Like, come on, this is craziness. Thank you. My past self is happy that they are writing these articles now because it means Bitcoin's working. But I do think it is a very fair critique and question as to what are the future catalysts. And so one of them that is coming is on September 18th, the Federal Reserve is expected to come out with an interest rate cut. And so my guess is probably a 25 basis point interest rate cut, not 50. They kind of don't feel like they need to make a big jump, just kind of ease your way into the monetary policy regime change. And they did kind of tip their hand, tell the market it's likely to come. So people have been positioning themselves, but I do think people are underestimating how impactful it is that the actual action occurs, the certainty of they did make the cut. And so I think that's kind of one catalyst is them coming out and saying, hey, we've cut interest rates. Another catalyst would be some large party coming out and saying that they've bought Bitcoin and put it on their balance sheet, whether that is a sovereign wealth fund, whether that's an actual nation state, maybe it is another big public company, right? There's a couple of things. The hard part there is there's no like timeline in terms of when that could happen. But if that was to occur, if name your favorite big country came out and said, we've bought Bitcoin or putting it in our central bank reserves,
I have a question.
That could be a huge benefit as well.
Why would they say that? If they did it, what is their incentive to say we put Bitcoin on the balance sheet?
Once they are done actually buying, then you want to tell everyone. It doesn't make sense. Like one of the things when President Trump said that he was going to create a national stockpile of Bitcoin, when Robert Jr. came out and he said that he thought we should go and buy all this Bitcoin, et cetera, telling the market before you do it works against you. Right. So it's this weird dynamic of if you're campaigning, you have to tell people, here's what I intend to do, because you're trying to use that to get them to vote for you. But actually, a economic actor does not want to tell the market. It'd be like, imagine a Wall Street hedge fund going out and putting in the Wall Street Journal, tomorrow I'm going to buy this stock.
It's going to spike and then you're buying it at a high.
Of course. So I do think there's this, kind of healthy tension between politicians campaigning and trying to tell their citizens, vote for me because I'm going to do X, versus the economic argument as to you should wait and do X and then tell everyone. So that's why a sovereign wealth fund, once they have their position on, then they would go tell someone. So you see this all the time in finance, is people put their position on and then they start talking about it, right? So there's this saying, get long and get loud. get long, buy the asset, and then get loud, then go tell everyone about it and bring eyeballs to it. And then the idea is that other people start to see your kind of investment case, et cetera. They begin to go and try to buy that asset. That obviously helps you because you're already a holder. So I think that is a potential catalyst. Another catalyst is Donald Trump being elected as president. Right now, it is unclear what Vice President Harris's position on crypto is moving forward. The current administration has been very abrasive to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Obviously, as the vice president, you're the second most powerful person in the world. You're participating in that, whether implicitly or explicitly. But there are rumblings and rumors that her administration claims they will be more sympathetic. They will be more accepting. There are people like Anthony Scaramucci and Mark Cuban that are working to try to get the Democrats to be more interested. I believe people like Ro Khanna and Hakeem Jeffries, they're trying to kind of push the Democrat Party to say, look, make this a bipartisan issue. Don't let this become a Republican thing. This needs to be an America thing. So I think that effort is good. I actually think people on both sides of the aisle should embrace this. We should not make technology partisan. With all that said, Donald Trump and the Republican Party have done such a good job of positioning themselves as pro-Bitcoin candidates that if they are elected, then I think that will be a major boom. People will say, hey, Bitcoin's going to do well under a Trump presidency. Whether the facts are true or not, it's impossible to tell the future. But just the fact that he's positioned himself that way, he gets elected, people then see, hey, Trump is likely to do things that help Bitcoin, not hurt it. So that'll be a tailwind. And then also end of year in these bull markets, we start to get to 6, 7, 8 months after the halving. We tend to see price tick up from there. And you could think of this as there was this supply shock. Right? We cut in half how many Bitcoin were coming into the market on a daily basis. And so when that occurs, it takes a little while for the market to kind of reprice itself. But I do expect there to be a repricing. The word of caution to Bitcoin investors is the repricing may not be what you think it is. It may not go from 50 or 60,000 to 300,000. What's more likely to happen is we go up 50%. 100%. So could you see somewhere between 100 to 150K price in the bull market? That seems reasonable. Maybe that is even like the base case in a bull market for an asset like Bitcoin, given its size today and its holder base. What I do not think is reasonable is to expect a $250,000 or $300,000 Bitcoin price. And I also don't expect for Bitcoin to kind of continue to go sideways forever. So there's some bracket there, and I would put it between 100 and 150K as kind of the target zone in this bull market. And so really a catalyst is time has elapsed since the halving, and November into December and kind of Q1 of next year, I would expect price to kind of follow some of these past market cycles. And so if you're a holder, one of the challenges is actually like, don't get lulled to sleep. Don't get bored to death. Instead, understand that you're actively making a decision every day to hold this asset. And so if any of these catalysts or multiple of these catalysts play out, the price goes higher.
I have a question. Why is it that usually, at least, from an observer standpoint, Bitcoin the price tends to rise around the holidays?
Well, I think a lot of the market cycles have been in bull markets that tends to fall that 6 to 8 month period post halving. And so if you take 2018 as an example, in 2017, there was this like blow off top, and especially into the end of the year. And then what we saw was actually 2018 in Q4, there was Bitcoin fell by 50%. It went from 6,500 down to 3,200. And so the opposite occurred in the bear market. And if you then look in 2021, we kind of had the blow off top, right? November of 2021 was the top of the Bitcoin price, new all-time high. That must be what I
remember, yeah.
And then if you fast forward to 2022, FTX is collapsing, all the pain and chaos is kind of in the second half and really Q4 of 2022. So if you kind of follow this cycle, there is a belief that you will get these price, kind of movements. Now, what's interesting is this Q4 is not actually aligned with the top of a bull market Q4. Instead, this is kind of the first Q4. So if you go back to 2020, there was a halving. If I remember correctly, it happened in May. That halving, we pretty much went sideways. I think that the price of Bitcoin was almost identical in August as it was in May. Like maybe there was a slight uptick, but like, maybe it was 8,000 and it was now like $9,000 or something. But it wasn't a big price movement through the summer. So sideways summer, post-halving.
Sideways summer.
And then we get to October. In October, we start to grind up. November, we start to grind up faster. In December, if I remember correctly, we break through the all-time high and we were adding $1,000 a day to the Bitcoin price. And it overlapped. I think on December 25th, we hit 25,000. On December 26th, we hit 26,000.
Oh, wow.
And so it was going up rapidly. Bitcoin went from, call it $10,000, $12,000, kind of at the start of Q4 to $64,000 by the end of Q1. So in a 6-month period, there was this massive, kind of acceleration of the price. We drew down 50% back down into the low 30s, and then we went back up again at the end of the year. And so again, 2017, very similar. We went from $1,000 to $20,000 in 2017. It's a 20x return in a single year, but there's kind of this blow off top at the end of the year. The halving didn't occur in 2017. It happened in 2016. And so you've got to kind of look out 18 months. Now, that may get shortened because people on Wall Street start to say to themselves, you know what? If everyone expects 18 months after the halving, that's the top, I'm just going to sell in month 17 or month 16. Right? I'm not going to wait for the blow off top. I'm going to sell early so I can capture the gains rather than potentially miss it and then end up on the wrong side of kind of the drawdown. And so I do think that those halving cycles will shorten a little bit. It won't go from 18 months to 9 months, but it'll shorten. And then you have to remember now that the asset is bigger. It's over $1 trillion. And you have more holders, both in terms of financial institutions, but also individuals. And so the volatility is going to kind of come down. It's going to get muted over time. The reason why that is important is because there is some threshold where the people who were buying Bitcoin early on that were looking for the asymmetric aspect, that is no longer available. I don't think we're there yet. But Michael Saylor recently was on CNBC and he said Bitcoin has gone up 44% a year compounded in terms of when he started buying it around $8,000, $10,000 to today. 44% is significant outperformance from the stock market. As that number comes down, if you get to 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, there are some people who are going to say, that's not that interesting. I need the next asymmetric asset that can go up 40, 50, 60, that's 70%.
Crazy.
Very rare to find them. And that's why Bitcoin has been able to attract $1 trillion. But I do think that that's also why people have been pushing out on the risk curve of crypto over the last couple of years, is because crypto used to go up hundreds of percent. Then it was 100%. Then it was 75%. Now it's 44% over the last, call it 4 or 5 years. And so people just say, well, I want exposure to crypto, but like, why don't I just go to the thing that might go up 200% or go to zero? I'll take more and more risk. And so they push out, into the smaller cap coins.
It's like the venture mindset applied to this kind of investing.
If you think about
SoftBank
venture if you think mindset. About it from the investor seat, there's 2 reasons why people would do that. One is the kind of venture capital belief.
That's only 10.
If I build a portfolio of asymmetric assets, 60, 70, 80% of them can go to zero, but it's all a power law. And so I just need to have one that goes up more than 10x and I make money.
Yeah.
That is probably more sophisticated investors are kind of looking at it. They're running models. They're looking at portfolio construction. They're thinking about rebalancing. They're, kind of doing all of that work. I don't think that is most people who are pushing out on the risk curve. I think most people are saying to themselves, I live in the United States or somewhere else in the world. My local currency is being devalued. I might not even be able to articulate that, but all I know is I keep falling further and further behind. If I go and I buy the S&P, which goes up 8 to 10% a year, it will take me forever. And probably in my lifetime, I will not achieve financial freedom. I read somewhere on the internet that somebody bought a coin, it went up a lot and they got rich. And so this has better odds than me buying a lottery ticket.
That's a little dangerous.
Of course it's dangerous, but it's this feeling that I can't get ahead. I'm losing hope, right? The world is getting more expensive around me. And so I have to take more risk to drive a higher return in order to catch up. And many of these people aren't even trying to grow faster. They just want to feel like their life is not getting worse, right? Can they stop the bleeding?
Yeah.
And so if you look at Bitcoin, one of my kind of eye-opening statistics that I read this year was in 2016, the median home in America was worth 664 Bitcoin. Today, in 2024, the median home in America is worth about 6 Bitcoin. Now, the reason why that's interesting is because home affordability in America has exploded in dollar terms. People are saying to themselves, this is the worst home affordability in decades. The price of a home has literally exploded and gone up about 50% in 8 years. That's really hard for a lot of Americans to say, how do I afford a home? At the same time, if you price that asset in Bitcoin, the home has become 99% cheaper.
Yeah.
So it's all about which asset are you denominating your wealth in. And so if you can say to yourself, wait a second, if I just hold a currency that is going to appreciate my purchasing power, rather than everything getting more expensive around me, everything is going to get cheaper around me. As people learn how that works, there's a lot of people who say, that's interesting. I need to do more work there. I need to go and do some research. I need to figure out, should I buy this or should I not? What are the risks? And so that one statistic ultimately boils down to education. If people understood the purchasing power of Bitcoin has been going up while the dollar has been going down, if 8 years ago you had simply said, I'm going to take a portion, whether it was 1, 3, 5%, whatever the number is, and put it into Bitcoin, you then would have a completely different outcome in terms of what is the price of a house? What is the price of groceries? What is the price of insurance? All of those things are subject to the devaluation of the currency. And so now people are saying to themselves, well, if Bitcoin's not going to go up hundreds of percent, if I missed out on the last 8 years, let me go find the next thing that I believe will have massive appreciation.
Yeah. And to wrap this topic up, what do we think about MicroStrategy CEO Michael Saylor predicting that Bitcoin? Anyway, I just want to ask, why are people still making price predictions? I feel like that's such a tricky game. But he predicted that Bitcoin could hit 13 million by 2045.
I don't know what the price of Bitcoin is going to do.
It's just such a specific.
Well, I have opinions. His specific model is, I think he looked out 21 years and he basically calculated if Bitcoin grows at certain, compounding annual growth rates, here's where it would end up. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. It's really hard to kind of predict this stuff. I do think that structurally the idea of people are very short-term oriented. So they're thinking about what is the price of Bitcoin going to be next week, next month, even next year. But instead, if you look out over a long period of time and you look at how compounding works, it can produce very big numbers that surprise people.
That would be asymmetric growth.
It would be, but I think that model is somewhere between 25 to 35% growth, if I remember correctly. I don't quote me on that, but it's something that is less growth than today. But also we see a stock market where you get 10% growth. So if it's double the stock market, let's use that as an example. It will produce a very good return. The one difference between maybe the stock market and Bitcoin or other assets is that growth is all capital appreciation. There are no dividends. There's no reinvesting. There's no anything. And so if you look at kind of the 8 to 10% growth, usually that is calculated in the stock market without dividends. And so that is just pure capital appreciation. The fact that you do get paid dividends and you can reinvest those obviously can help juice the return. And then if you don't look at the S&P, instead you look at something like maybe the NASDAQ 100, if I remember correctly, the NASDAQ 100 last year was up 50%. That's a massive number. And so if that asset goes up 15, 20, 25%, maybe NASDAQ and Bitcoin end up actually in the steady state having similar growth rates on a compound annual growth rate basis. I don't know. And so my takeaway from the model that Saylor used is not so much Bitcoin's going to $13 million in 21 years. Instead, it was a reminder compounding over a long period of time at higher than normal growth rates for a financial asset can produce these massive outcomes. And so if people can shift to being more long-term oriented and also look at and expect the compound annual growth rate of Bitcoin to come down, it still provides what many people online are talking about, very attractive, end results. It's just in order to capture that, you kind of have to, allocate your assets, And then you got to be really good at doing nothing for a long period of time. And humans just naturally are horrible at doing that.
Great. Let's switch gears a little bit into another sexy topic. Literally. OnlyFans revenue is through the roof. Leo Radvinsky, who is the billionaire owner of OnlyFans, which is known for being a subscription
creator platform
for hosting adult content. Just really fun fact. I think it was a year ago, I interviewed the former CEO of OnlyFans, and I was asking her, I was like, you guys are diversifying your content. Like, should I be on OnlyFans? And people in the audience were like, wait, what? And I was like, no, for writing, as a writer, not as anything else. But she was making the point, and I think they're still trying to do this, to diversify their creator base away from just adult content creators.
I think that would be a mistake.
Into cooking and writers and things like that. But hold on a second. So let me give you some crazy numbers. So he, Radvinsky, the owner, earned more than $1.2 million a day from the social media subscription site. The company that owns OnlyFans, like the British parent company, showed that the business paid a $472 million dividend to Radvinsky in 2023 after a surge in revenues and profits. This makes him, his wealth, Forbes estimates his wealth at $3.8 billion.
Why are we surprised? Sex has sold for centuries.
True.
And one of the easiest ways to make money is to simply say, I took a picture of myself, and if you want to see it, pay me money. And depending on who you are and what people think is on the other side of that picture, they're probably going to pay you. And so in a very weird way, I do not think OnlyFans should diversify their content.
Of course.
Instead, they should double and triple down on what's working. Diversification can kill a business like this. And so they get critiqued in the media. My guess is the owner doesn't care. And diversification is really to appease other people. When you have a great business, forget for a second OnlyFans, when you have a great business, you want to actually double down on what makes you unique, on what is working, not say, oh, this thing is working, but like, let me go try this other thing that may or may not work. That's just introducing risk to your business. And if you have a business where I think you said he took a $400+ million dividend, ambition can kill a company like this as well. So there are many people in the world who would love to make personally $400 million a year. If you want to then take that $400 million a year dividend check and try to make it $1 billion, there may be a path to doing that. But if you become too ambitious and you don't think critically about what is working, why do we have this advantage, why is our business good, the ambition can actually end up screwing up your core business. And there's many stories of this happening throughout, kind of the history of business. And so what is unique about this is society has kind of different viewpoints of the relationship between men, women, sex, and content. And so let me give you a couple of examples. It used to be that there was like an underbelly of prostitution, let's say, centuries ago. But it was kind of known in certain societies like everyone engages in that stuff, right? That doesn't mean that it was right, it was wrong, whatever, but like it was kind of like...
It was like part of life.
Yeah, it was like a black market, but also it was kind of like, oh, you go over there, you do whatever, you come back. Maybe, although different, maybe akin to like an American's view of the red light district in Amsterdam, right? Is like, it's kind of an area you go and it's like, quote unquote, fun, right? Whatever that ends up being. Now, if you then take a look at the relationship in the United States with this stuff, something like Playboy magazine right? If you remember when I was a kid, if you went to a gas station, they'd have all the magazines there, and the Playboy was like in a
black thing,
like a cover, right?
Yeah.
It had like a bag almost, and they blacked out what it was. So people who were in the gas station could see that it was a Playboy, but they couldn't actually see the content. Certain people could buy it. I think there was an age thing at one point, all that kind of stuff. But like, it was in society, but again, it was like, how do we make sure like a child doesn't walk by, see this? In the United States, prostitution obviously is illegal. And so what has popped up is people want this content, but the content is now being put behind a paywall. And there's an argument to be made that these individuals, regardless of what your moral framework is and whether they should be doing it, should not be doing it, whatever, they're probably more fairly compensated now than they were previously.
But hold on a second. I just want to push back on two things. First, you cannot compare someone posting adult content on the internet as engaging in anything beyond posting content on the internet.
Well, I'm just saying that Playboy magazine was doing the same thing.
Yeah, but that's different from the red light district. That's different from other situations.
I think that what is the difference between the Playboy mansion grotto and the red light district? There may be some differences.
No, I'm saying, but OnlyFans specifically.
But my point is like, that is a digital only.
You're saying the evolution of it.
Yeah. Is of course going to go to the internet. Friction is going to go down.
Of course.
Cost is going to become much more accessible. Now, I rather than having to go to the gas station and buy a Playboy magazine to get this content, I can simply sit on my couch and with a couple of taps on my phone, be looking at content.
Yeah. And I actually think like, you know, you and I know people who are on OnlyFans doing this type of stuff in a way, or have done it. I think that their argument is, I am now in charge of my content. People are paying me, not, you know, taking my stuff, putting it somewhere else, and I don't get a cent from it.
Let's use a real life example. Plynn and I know Lisa Ann, who is one of the highest grossing porn stars in the world. And she told us at an event that she, over the years, as different adult sites went bankrupt, she bought back her content.
Yeah.
So she was able to.
She's like the Taylor Swift of.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she was able to buy it back. When she bought it back, she now owns that content. And so when OnlyFans came out, she has been editing it and cutting it and doing all this stuff and able to post it.
Yeah.
There's a paywall, people are paying her, etc. She's not recording new content. So from a pure business perspective,
smart.
That is, you know, very different. Now, here's where I think people, you know, kind of the conversation devolves into a lot of chaos. When you put a moral overlay, so if you say, hey, look for a second, if you evaluate just the business, of course it prints money. They are literally selling the one thing that sells in every language, right? And the friction has dropped so much and the cost and like all this kind of stuff. And they only take 20%, which means 80% of the money is going to the creator, which obviously is better for them. When you put the moral overlay and you say to yourself, do we want to live in a society with this stuff? Is this stuff good, bad, blah, 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 whatever? The reason why the conversation devolves into chaos is because people have different viewpoints on this. There are some people who say, let everyone do whatever they want, and as long as they're not hurting someone. There are other people who say, you know, hey, I take a religious view of this, and this is, you know, sinful content. And they kind of go around the table, and you have all these different viewpoints. What I think is very interesting about this platform in particular is that people have tried this many, many times in the past. This is the one that worked. And so now what it has introduced into the market is free choice. And so the beauty of America is if you are somebody who disagrees with this type of content, you can disagree, but also vehemently believe that people have the right to do what they want to do. They have the freedom to do what they want to do. And so
some people would argue that. Other people would say you should not. This should not exist.
Of course. But I think that is the beauty of America, is that we can have that debate. We can have that conversation, and freedom is a core part of it. There are many other countries in the world where there's not a conversation. There is no free choice. There is no, you know, kind of approach to it. And so I think if we bring it back to the business component, you could make a very strong argument that, like, I'm surprised the business isn't bigger.
Yeah. Wait, I want to push back on one thing before we forget. You said diversification could kill this kind of business. But actually, because of the split, 80 cents goes of every dollar spent on the platform goes to the creator. They only take 20%. It's actually better than most creator websites, whatever. So why wouldn't they benefit from me or a cooking creator or somebody going on that platform? Because genuinely, they could make more money.
Today's episode is brought to you by Domain Money. I love talking about money, but I'm not a financial professional, so I don't offer one-on-one coaching or advising. But in order to get ahead, you need someone with expertise to work with you one-on-one and provide personalized advice. The decisions you're making now will significantly impact the rest of your life. The more time you waste not taking the steps to get a plan for your money, the harder you make it to achieve your goals. That's why I've partnered with Domain Money to pair our community with flat fee certified financial planners. That's right, they are CFPs. They can actually give you advice and they can help you level up your money game. Don't get left behind and head over to domainmoney.com/pomp to book your free strategy session to help you get started. That's domainmoney.com/pomp to get started with a CFP now. Go check them out. And just like any other major financial decision, it's important you understand what the service is and if it's right for you. So make sure to go see the important disclaimers at domainmoney.com/legal. That's what the lawyers told me to say. Now go check them out, domainmoney.com/pomp. When you have a monopoly, you want to keep the monopoly. When you have a monopoly and you diversify, now...
But Facebook, look at Facebook.
Facebook has a monopoly on the one thing that matters.
Attention?
No, they have direct connections between
My
real
grandmother.
humans. They have
Yes.
direct connections between real humans around the world.
Yeah.
They help people better communicate.
But they grew from something niche to something much bigger, right?
But they never changed in terms of they created a social network. And the network may have expanded to include more things.
Well, this is a network, but it's just different topics, right?
But the thing is, nobody knows them as a network. Everyone knows them for the content.
So you don't think people would subscribe to my newsletter on OnlyFans? Would they even know it's OnlyFans?
Well, they definitely would know it's OnlyFans. Again, you may be able to, as an individual, get people to pay you some money by, I don't know, posting screenshots of your newsletter or whatever. But as a business, when you have a monopoly, when you have such a dominant position in the market, anything that you do that dilutes that dominance is usually later on seen as a threat to your business. It's not like if you launch cooking as a vertical, you're disrupting yourself. Right? So a lot of businesses would say, hey, we got this great thing. If Blockbuster had come out with the Netflix competitor, they were disrupting themselves. They weren't looking to expand. It was, I'm trying to prepare for the future. OnlyFans does not have a technology threat. OnlyFans does not have some sort of market threat. OnlyFans' biggest risk is itself. And so in that situation, you basically have to be really good at saying no, in my experience, or if you study kind of the history of business. No, we are not going to expand into other categories. No, we are not going to appease, the public outside of our company. No, we are not going to, do whatever the next shiny thing is. What I do think is interesting, and I don't know where they are on it at the moment, one of the things I could see being a threat is AI. Because if AI is able to create images that look realistic.
It already is,
And then those people are uploading that content. Do you penalize those people? Because you're saying, listen, your AI images are competing with our quote unquote real creators. Do you encourage it and you say the creator of the AI image is the one getting paid and thank you so much for putting more content? Or should OnlyFans create that content and put it up themselves and rather than get 20%, get 100%? And now it's like Amazon selling their own products on their marketplace, competing with their own customers.
Yeah.
Those are the business decisions that actually I think are, kind of the Pareto law of they got to get those decisions right. There might only be 2 or 3 of them, but that will drastically determine the outcome and the future profits of the business more so than do we go into cooking? Do we go into this or whatever?
It'll be interesting to follow this company's trajectory for sure. Let's keep it spicy Keep it.
Can I add one more thing actually before I forget?
Oh man, I had a great transition. Okay,
before you get it, we'll do spicy again. I do think another untold story in businesses like this, if the founder is taking a $470 million, whatever the number was, dividend annually, they got to be paying a lot of taxes.
Yeah.
A lot of taxes.
He lives in Florida.
It doesn't matter where they live. Just in almost every jurisdiction. I think the company's based in the UK.
Yeah.
They're paying a lot of taxes. And so headlines will always be, controversial OnlyFans platform owner takes, makes $700 million. What a number. You could easily write a headline.
Pays.
OnlyFans pays $400 million in taxes supporting, which could pay for these 5 welfare programs. Right? Now, again, I'm not saying that the media should actually be biased in either direction. I'm just saying that these situations are always hyper complex because the narratives are driven by the mainstream media. And usually when the public narrative is a negative perspective of something, nobody ever wants to say, okay, I understand the public narrative. Let me switch around on the table now. And how would I steelman this? How would I argue the positive for the company? And so you can imagine a world where how much benefit does the citizens get if you're paying hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes?
The UK government fueled by OnlyFans.
I mean, again, it sounds kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I bet you there are very serious, positive programs run by that government, which are helping people objectively. And if you go and you look at the annual budget for them, it's probably less than this company is paying in taxes. And so similar to how they'll say, Bitcoin miners in the United States use 2%, which is more than West Virginia electricity.
Electricity,
right? And you're like, what? Like, what kind of comparison is that, right? Also, refrigerators use more than 2%, which is more than West Virginia. Christmas lights. Or my favorite, one of the most wasteful energy consumers in the entire United States?
What?
No, clothes dryers.
Oh, no, I can't use it.
You don't need a clothes dryer. There's a natural one. Did you see the guy? There's a viral thing going around. There was a guy who was advertising. I can't remember if it was on like the early days of the internet, or maybe it was in one of these magazines or whatever. He was advocating for or promoting a solar powered clothes dryer.
It's called the Sun.
No, that's what he said. And people would call and order, and it was like $50, and he would send them a clothes line to dry their clothes outside.
Every other country other than America, kind of that's how people used to. Now it's
so if you think about that, right? It's like from an energy consumption
sees your dirty
standpoint,
laundry out there, literally.
Yeah, but it's just like that. If you're consuming energy for something that you actually don't need, but it is it's a luxury, 100%, right? That becomes like a very interesting conversation. So the same thing goes for kind of the narrative around these these companies. They, paid themselves all this money or whatever. But if all of a sudden we said, OnlyFans paid X dollars in taxes, which is more than these programs cost. Yeah,
but that's like, I hear you. It's just very few.
There's a lot of American companies that pay $0 in taxes. So if you think about, these companies, and again, I don't know what the tax rate is that they're paying.
But also you don't know what tax.
The UK, they don't play around.
Oh, okay.
They want your money. They're definitely, they got their hands in your pocket for sure. The United States is the only place which is capitalistic, and also somehow tax rates, get changed around.
Should we move around?
Let's go.
Move around. Move on.
Move on. Yeah. What was that spicy? What was that spicy thing you were saying?
I forgot my transition. Another spicy topic. Ugh, it's not the same. I'm just going to read it. You ruined the moment. I'm sad. Okay. Elon Musk controls 2/3 of all active satellites orbiting Earth following the launch of the 7,000th Starlink satellite this week. So I guess Brazil isn't really making a dent in his monopoly in space. So the internet satellite constellation, which is built and operated by Musk's SpaceX, has grown by an average of 3 satellites per day since the first launch in 2019. I can't believe that the first launch was in 2019. It feels like Starlink has been here forever.
Elon Musk is a competitor.
Two? Oh, he's
in the market.
Just a competitor.
He's a competitor. And he's been able to launch 7,000 satellites into space. If somebody doesn't like the fact that Elon controls 2/3 of all active satellites, they should launch more satellites into space. We shouldn't punish the winners.
But I don't think anybody's punishing him.
Oh, I tweeted this story and people were like, that's too much. It's concentrated ownership, all this stuff.
In space?
Yeah, he owns 2/3 of all active satellites. I mean, there is a world in the future where Elon, and there's already been a couple of incidents, Ukraine as an example, where, again, I want to be careful that I don't get the facts wrong, but my understanding is that Russia was, invaded Ukraine. Ukraine was planning a counter offensive. Starlink and Elon had sent Starlink terminals to Ukraine, and they were going to use Starlink for offensive military action. He shut it off. And I believe his position was Starlink is not to be used in offensive military action. That's not why we're giving you internet access.
Yeah.
I believe their defense was a counterattack is part of defense, blah, 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 whatever. Again, whatever the details there were, somehow Elon Musk got inserted into a geopolitical, violent conflict and was having to make decisions. And so as more and more people start using this internet service, does he get to be the arbiter of, when should you have access to the internet? When should you not?
Yeah.
How should you use it? It's a lot of questions that are unanswered at the moment.
But overall, I think Starlink is a great thing for society and for many of these countries that don't have internet access. Do you want to guess currently how many countries Starlink operates in?
I would say over 80, less than 120.
102 countries and has
almost dead on.
Do you want to guess how many
right down the middle?
How many customers they have paying a monthly fee to access the network?
I think that they probably have more than 10 million, less than 30 million.
No, only 3 million customers. But I mean, that's still pretty small.
The reason why I said such a high number is I believe I saw an analysis that Starlink actually now may make up more of SpaceX's valuation than the rocket business. So
interesting.
They all fall under SpaceX, but I think it was something like $74 billion of SpaceX's valuation is thought to be from Starlink. Again, don't quote me on that. But if that is true, if it's not more than half, it's at least a very big percentage. I think they might have raised money at a $200 billion valuation recently. So the numbers might have changed. But it's a very real business. There's been talk that they may spin it out as a separate company or a public company or whatever. But if you're Elon and you're in the private market and every time you want to raise capital, there's a line out the door.
Yeah. Why ever go public?
Why subject yourself to all that?
Yeah.
Right.
He's talked about how he thinks that it's best for his companies to stay private.
And you now see it with Tesla.
Yeah.
Where they're public. XAI is rumored to be doing a deal with Tesla, where there was controversy because did some of the hardware or engineers get diverted from Tesla, go to XAI, all this stuff, or to Twitter. But also, I believe that there's a rumored deal that XAI would give some of its hardware, some of its learning, some of its data, et cetera, to Tesla. They'd work together. In exchange, XAI would get a percentage of Tesla future revenue. And so if you're a Tesla shareholder, all of a sudden, there's this whole universe of assets that you have to start thinking about. It's a very complex, situation. I don't think that there's a right answer that will make everyone happy. Instead, I kind of fall out on, I'm glad that Elon Musk is so ambitious. I'm glad he works so hard. I'm glad that he's been able to push the world forward on so many different dimensions. Anyone has faults. Anyone who is this ambitious, works this hard, kind of has to do things so differently, obviously will have faults. But rather than as a society, we let the faults drown out the accomplishments, we should say the accomplishments are so impressive. The faults, obviously, he should address, but let's not lose, kind of the the bigger picture.
The world would look very different without Musk's companies.
There are 2 astronauts in space right now.
I was just going to say,
that may not come home.
Yeah. If there was no SpaceX, who knows? But my other thing is, like people talk about like the achievements and the failures and the missteps and the whatever. But as you were talking about Musk inadvertently got put into a very thorny geopolitical situation. I just wonder on a daily basis, the worries and the things that go through his mind that the average person probably wouldn't be able to handle mentally if they were in that position. Think about just like Brazil's doing this, Ukraine's doing that. You're in the middle of it all. People are trying to ban you. It's incredible. And I wonder if part of his, he
doesn't. I don't think he has as much pain as you think.
That's what I mean. I think because of the way he's wired, and he's kind of a problem solver, he probably sees that as a challenge, not as a worry as many people would.
I don't know Elon, but obviously I've read a lot about him. I read the biography, paid attention. I happen to know a lot of people who know him pretty well. I've asked them about him, things like that. And one of the things that people who know him well and have worked with him will position as a positive is how quick of a decision maker he is. He has a propensity for action.
We saw that with X.
And so in those situations, I don't think there's a lot of time to worry. I'm sure he's human, right? He has worries. He has, kind of mental anguish, all this stuff. But I do think his personality, what I understand from how he operates, it's kind of problem pops up, very quick and decisive, move on to the next problem. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if he compartmentalized a lot so that it's kind of like, what's the thing in his face? Deal with it, move on. You don't even think about it anymore. And then obviously he has a fantastic team around him, which can help him do that.
I know people don't come here for relationship advice, but I'm just going to drop this in there. If you're somebody who's reactive and tends to worry a lot, a good match for you would be somebody who's very calm and compartmentalizes things and doesn't worry a lot. Just saying. You can't have 2 reactive people together.
Who are you in that situation?
Obviously, I'm the calm, cool-headed one. Okay.
I also think it is funny that for a long time, Polina would always say to me, hey, like, what are you doing? And recently we had a breakthrough where somebody said something to me and it dawned on me. I said, you just described my life. And
what?
An example would be maybe we go somewhere, we're walking, let's say in New York City, and we're talking. And then all of a sudden Polina would look at me and be like, hey, did you hear what I said? And I'd be like, oh, sorry. I know
exactly when he's like in his head having
and so
a conversation.
I always wondered, I was like, am I just like daydreaming or what's going on there or whatever? And this person we met is very intelligent.
You can say who it was. I don't think he'd care.
I don't want to put anyone on the spot. But they said, talking about something else, they said, a lot of times there are people who deal with a lot of different things throughout the day, blah, blah, whatever, and they will kind of do this thing. And it's usually because they are actually locked in a conversation. They're just talking to themselves in their head. And then it was like I got woken up from a slumber and I was like,
a slumber? He's a bear.
I talk to myself all day long about different things that I'm thinking through or whatever. And so that are the exact moments when Polina's like, hey, what are you doing?
This is very interesting. In the very early days of our relationship, I don't like conflict. And so when we would argue, I'd be like, oh, like this is horrible, whatever, we're arguing. And Anthony would be like, wait, what? I'm just debating. So the way that his mind works that I now understand is that when I say something and he disagrees with me, oftentimes you'll actually do what I believe to be the right decision. You're just kind of playing devil's advocate without telling me you're playing devil's advocate to kind of go back and forth and make sure that the decision is soundproof. No, foolproof.
Yeah. Foolproof.
Whatever. I don't know American idioms. I think that's what it's called.
I think the other piece that makes it a little bit difficult, and I know many people that are my friends, I feel bad for their husbands or wives because they have a very high degree of disagreeableness. And I know I have that. And so that is a
don't
great
do
attribute.
It. Yeah.
It's a great attribute in my professional life. It probably makes your life a little bit harder in my personal life.
I don't know, but I got to step up my debate game. All right. Oh my God, speaking of debate game, I am on fire today with the transitions. Let's talk about the presidential debate strategy tonight.
This isn't a debate.
What?
It's not a debate.
With the tonight?
Yeah, this is just a theater performance.
Of course, it'll be interesting. By the way,
they both are practicing their plays.
My cousin who lives in Bulgaria is visiting us this week, and I was like, hey, I know you're coming over for dinner tonight, but I gotta warn you, we're going to be watching the presidential debate.
He was hype.
And he was like, oh, okay, I want to watch that too. That's great. He said that he was watching the highlights from that. It just makes you realize that people in other countries kind of pay attention to what's going on.
This is major leagues.
It's so interesting.
I love all my friends that live in other countries. I travel all around the world, meet all these amazing people.
But you're not watching a Bulgarian presidential
But they will all
debate.
tell you. No, they'll tell you. American politics is the major leagues. And tonight we have the World Series. It's the first game of the World Series. But
is this the only debate they're doing?
Well, it's still up for debate because they all keep claiming that Trump says he wants to do 3. Harris says, okay, I'll do 3. I won't do 3. They're going back and forth. We'll see what happens. But I want you to put yourself in the position of our 2 actors and actresses going into tonight. They both are going to put on their costumes. They're going to put on their stage makeup.
No, I have to tell you something.
Go ahead.
Sorry, but I have to tell you something. Speaking of costumes, I read that part of their preparation for the debate, Kamala Harris and her team have been holed up for 5 days in a Pittsburgh hotel doing highly choreographed debate practice, including there's a stage, a replica TV lighting, and an advisor in full Lee Strasberg method acting mode, not just playing Donald J. Trump, but inhabiting him, wearing a boxy suit, a long tie. They're going all out. They're method acting.
They hired Shane Gillis.
Funny.
Kill Tony.
Not as funny as my joke.
So here is it's even better example. Today's episode is brought to you by iTrust Capital. Are you buying crypto on an exchange because you're excited about the bull run? Well, I hope you're reporting your crypto gains to the IRS because they want you to pay your taxes. That's right. When you buy and sell crypto on an exchange, you need to pay the government taxes when you make profits. That sounds pretty taxing. There's another way you can buy and sell crypto without worrying about taxes. At iTrust Capital, you can buy and sell crypto inside of a tax-advantaged crypto IRA. Crypto IRAs are retirement accounts that work similarly to an exchange, but with tax benefits. Let me give you an example. If you can buy and sell crypto on an exchange and you make a $20,000 profit, you have to pay the government taxes. However, if you do the same thing in your Roth IRA and you make a $20,000 profit, you don't need to pay any taxes. That's right. You get to keep all the profits and not have to pay taxes because it's in a tax-advantaged account. So opening a tax-advantaged IRA at iTrust Capital only takes a few minutes. You have 24/7 access to the markets with some of the lowest fees in the industry. The bull run has begun, and people are starting to see their accounts go up. So start taking advantage of tax benefits with an IRA at iTrust Capital. You can start maximizing your crypto investment today. Go to itrustcapital.com. That's itrustcapital.com. What's up, guys? Sorry for interrupting the episode, but I've got something important to share with you. I've got my first book coming out on September 24th. The book is titled How to Live an Extraordinary Life. It's a compilation of 65 private letters that I wrote to my children. My son and my daughter, they should learn something from me. And so I put down everything that I've learned throughout my life, both personally and professionally. If you read the book, I think that you'll learn many life lessons, but also it'll make you think more critically about various aspects of your life, including how you spend your time, how you spend your money, and how you build relationships with the important people in your life. You can go and you can pre-order the book today by simply going to Amazon or any other bookstore and just type in How to Live an Extraordinary Life by Anthony Pompliano. The book will pop up. Hit that pre-order button. You'll be doing me a huge favor, and hopefully in return, you'll learn something from the book. All right, let's get back to this episode. They're doing practice runs. They're putting on practice plays. It's like the family and friends the night before, right? What we are going to watch tonight is not a true debate. what we are going to watch is we are going to watch a completely scripted from both ends approach. I do think that one of Donald Trump's strong suits is that he tends to go off script. He's
good at destabilizing the opponent, and especially if you're very prepared.
So here's my expectation of what's going to happen tonight. And this, I have no inside knowledge, just based on the two candidates, plus also a bunch of stuff I read online. I think that Kamala Harris is going to try to create a scenario where she is the prosecutor. Donald Trump is on trial. The question askers, the people asking the questions,
the interviewers, the moderators,
they are the judge, and the American people is the jury.
Yeah, because
and
she is going to try to, right?
Yeah, you that's up for debate. But they are going to try, in terms of Harris's team, to position this as Kamala Harris is here to prosecute Donald Trump.
Yep.
Very smart, but it's very hard to catch a magician. And if there's one thing that Donald Trump is good at, is if you come in the front door, he slides out the back door. We have seen time and time again in debates where people have him cornered, dead to the right. The most famous one is the Megyn Kelly clip where she says, you have called women, fat, blah, 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 whatever. And he, although still very vile to a number of people in the American population, expertly sidesteps the whole situation, says, nope, only Rosie O'Donnell. Now,
he injects humor in a
he understands
situation.
People. He understands culture. He understands kind of how to take a punch and redirect it in a different way.
Yeah.
That moment should have been a crucifying moment in that campaign where people said, look at this disgusting person. Instead, a lot of people walked out of there and go, he's hilarious.
Because I guess that's most of America.
Again, I don't know why, how, I'm not here to kind of unpack that, but I do think that there's a potential outcome where Harris's team walking in and saying, we're going to prosecute him.
Yeah.
They could be walking into a situation where if you're a bull charging forward, the guy who goes ole could actually be a very difficult opponent. Now, let me just flip around on the other side. Donald Trump's greatest strength and weakness is that he goes off script. And he did a fantastic job against Joe Biden, I thought, in terms of controlling himself. The microphones getting shut off helped him.
Yeah.
They're going to shut the microphones off here too.
Fantastic.
Now, if you look at that debate performance and you critique it, he almost made it to the end without kind of breaking character, if you will. There was 2 moments where he broke character a little bit. At one point he said, I don't know what he just said. I don't even think he knows what he just said. And it was just enough of like vintage Donald Trump that it appealed to his base and people thought it was funny online. But it also highlighted, I think he's old. I think he's, senile.
Yeah, and a lot of Trump's voters.
So again, it walked a fine line. But where he really broke character was the second they started talking about golf. He immediately was, oh, come on, you can't even carry your bag. And he just, I've seen your swing. I know your swing. You can't do that. And so the more that Harris can pull him to break character, it will play in her favor.
Yeah.
It's just hard when the microphones get shut off, because also one of her favorite moves is the, excuse me, I'm talking, which I actually do not think is a good strategy, but I think that she has used it over and over again and she thinks it's a good strategy. And so if the microphones are shut off, there is no talking over each other. She loses that opportunity to, try to position it as like, oh, you're always talking over me, stop doing that.
I think for me, and I think for a lot of Americans, I would say, just like from a big picture view, Trump doesn't seem as presidential. I think, like you said, if he can make himself be less jokey, more assertive, more presidential, that would be in his favor. Whereas Harris is more serious. You could say she seems more presidential, although there have been clips online of, I don't even know what, not looking presidential. But
I don't think that she seems more presidential. I actually think where Trump, a positive and a negative, a strength and a weakness is when he goes off script. I think that Harris knows, and people in her campaign have said it. It's very much a negative when she goes off script.
That's exactly what I mean.
That is why she's doing so much debate prep and trying to perfect it. Whereas I do think Trump's nature is a little bit more shoot from the hip. He wants to be prepared. Right. He wants to know policies. He wants to know some of the data. But I would not be surprised if Trump tonight says, I was the greatest president of the United States, right? Like he will appeal to the nostalgia. He will appeal to kind of, I was the president. Yeah. The world was much better that way, according to him. And so that's what Trump voters want to hear. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of people right now who are either undecided or kind of more centrist who are saying to themselves, well, I'm not happy with the current situation. What I need to decide is, can he provide a better future, or can she? And she, was locked in this Biden administration and didn't do what she wanted to do.
So, and we talked about Harris's, preparation. Here's what Trump is doing, as you might imagine. It said, Trump's preparations are a little more improv. They are pointedly called not debate prep, but policy time, meant to refresh him on his record. Trump has held just a handful of sessions so far, interrupting one at his Las Vegas hotel so he and his advisors could go up to his suite to watch Harris's convention speech. And it says, this is exactly what we were talking about, his allies and advisors have urged him to be happy Trump in the debate rather than mean bully Trump.
So I do agree that he is probably not taking the debate prep to the extent. The one thing that Trump has done, though, which I only can say this because it's how I actually prepare for a lot of things, he's been going on all these podcasts. That is some of the best debate prep you could have, because it is an unscripted conversation where you're going back and forth. And sure, the people may be a little friendlier than, an opponent, but the improv that is needed, the kind of active conversation, you're able to in real time practice the kind of wittiness, the quick recall of data, all of those things. He's doing these without notes. And so that is actually, to me, better debate prep than the scripted, okay, when they ask you this question, you say this type thing, because it'll be very interesting to see how authentic each one of them comes off.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things that was a big point of negotiation going into the debate was whether they could have a cheat sheet on their podium. And I believe the Harris campaign wanted one and Trump said no, just same rules as I did with Biden. And so if you want a cheat sheet, if you are doing such, incredible prep, you have to be very careful that you don't actually come off as just super scripted.
Yeah.
I think that she normally does a pretty decent job of not coming off that way. But, one of the wild cards here is that Harris did not do well in the debates when she was running for president.
You mean for vice president?
I'm sorry. For early on, I think that she claimed that she was running for president, if I remember correctly, in the Democratic kind of primary, and she got smoked. Right? I mean, she literally didn't even make it. And so some of that could be there was other people who were just better or kind of more prepared. But I do think Donald Trump has proven to be one of the best debaters in modern politics for a whole bunch of reasons. His last performance towards the end, I think people started to say we're just watching two older guys, kind of go back and forth or whatever. But he has proven to be one of the best debaters. Harris does not have a good debate track record. Tulsi Gabbard, there's this famous clip. She, really kind of held her feet to the fire and went after it. And so I do think the other part of this debate that's going to be interesting, Donald Trump was the president for 4 years. Vice President Harris is the second most powerful person in the administration today. This is not two candidates who haven't been in office. It's not all about, here's what I'm going to do. They also are both going to critique, here is what you did. And so Trump policy, from what I can tell, mostly is the same from 2016 to now. He has, become more centrist in things like women's reproductive rights and certain topics. Obviously, Bitcoin, he went from not a fan to a fan, things like that. But I think the volatility in Harris's, kind of what she said 8 years ago or 4 years ago to today is much greater. And so if you're in her seat, I think you have to do your best job to convince the American people that you mean what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Right. And so, things like gun ownership, things like how are we going to solve the border problem? Things like, recently there was a clip that came out in the news. They're talking about the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. And regardless of what you think of that situation, Vice President Harris was previously boasting about having provided the protections from an immigration standpoint to have, I think it's like 150,000 Haitians come to the United States. And so when you are governing, there's a lot of complexity and you got to try to get things right. When you are campaigning, it is all about scoring points on the internet, scoring points in the memorable moments. And so what we are going to watch tonight is why I call it theater. This is not about the policies. This is all about walking away and having people say that person's a better actor than that person.
It's going to be theater, but I do think that there will be small moments where they break character and you'll be able to actually see who they are or whether they're genuine or things like that. I actually weirdly do think that tonight's debate will swing a lot of people.
Yeah, I think every debate has a pretty big impact. What I've said for a long time now is for Donald Trump to win the presidency, he has to talk to the media and be disciplined. What Kamala Harris has to do is only have scripted moments, do not go off script in terms of talking to the press or anything. She is following that strategy, and so far has it seemed to be working for her.
Sorry, I have to interject, but I just think that this is such a slap in the face to freedom of speech, to journalism, to like the American people. Oh, I'm not going to talk to the press. Like, you are a public servant. You should talk to, I get really fired up about this, but like, journalists should not be saying, this is fantastic. Like this is how she beats Trump. Like, you should be like, hey, you owe it to the American people to answer our questions because these are the burning questions that people have.
Of course. I completely agree. And I would take it a step further is, Trump, he talks to the press, kind of, press conference, he takes questions, all that kind of stuff. But to me, the bigger signal is that he's willing to go. Imagine doing was it an hour, 2 hours with Elon Musk on Twitter, Twitter Spaces. Elon is the biggest, kind of loose cannon that you probably could talk to. Who knows what he's going to ask you? But to get on there and do it in a long format and all that kind of stuff. Theo Vaughn was literally talking to Donald Trump about what it's like to be on cocaine, which was made for a hilarious clip. But
it's like, that's your future president? I don't know.
But the point being that to go and sit and be able to handle any question, any topic, whatever. And actually, if you go back and you look at the clip, because I was fascinated by...
He sidestepped that too?
What's happening. Donald Trump was asking the questions. So he's in an interview, and at some point, they start talking, and I believe, if I remember correctly, Trump brought up his brother. I think it was his brother, Fred Trump, who was an alcoholic and told him, don't drink. And so Trump said he's never drank. And so Theo Vaughn is a comedian who, very interestingly, if you Google Theo Vaughn's actual name, he comes from aristocracy. His real name is like this...
Aristocracy?
Aristocracy, what is it? What is it called?
Aristocracy.
Aristocracy, that's what I said.
Yeah.
And
aristocracy.
Yeah, whatever. Aristocracy. Obviously, I don't come from that. And so I don't even know how to say the word. And so he's a comedian.
Yeah.
And so Trump is in there talking to him, and all of a sudden it comes to this very serious topic. And literally, Theo Vaughn he's hilarious. He's talking about like, you'll be you'll be a light pole on your own. You'll be a street lamp on your own street, right? And all this stuff. And Trump is like, oh, that's the down and dirty stuff? He's like, oh, that really gets you. It's like an upper, right? But in that engagement, he is not the one who is he's asking questions. He's engaging. He's doing all this. If you go and you look at a number of the other podcasts that he's done, the conversations are fascinating because you're listening to him actually talk. It's not scripted talking points. It's not whatever. Yeah. My thought process is that Harris could go do that, talking about things outside of politics. But from what I've seen, she is so trained in how to position herself as a political candidate and a politician that it would actually be very difficult for her to have those conversations. So if you just went and, got a beer with her or something and we're just hanging out, she's a person, right? She's charismatic. She's whatever. She can hang out, all the stuff. But the second that the political stuff starts to get talked about and there's a stage and a crowd and all this stuff and she goes off script, it's almost like it seems like a different person.
Yeah, it's hard because she kind of has she's compartmentalized them into two separate things. So she's either political or, talking about fun things, whereas Trump kind of does it both at the same time, which is interesting.
Would you interview Harris and Trump if you got the chance?
Of course. I was going to ask you two things actually, but first is, did you know that Harris and Trump have never met? This will be their first meeting in person.
That doesn't surprise me.
I am so surprised. They're both in politics. They weren't at the same event ever. No. Do you think that this will kind of add a pressure or nervousness there?
I think if you're going to go and play theater, they should just do full on UFC, do a weigh-in, have them do a stare down, get the photo
Maybe
op.
Not a weigh-in,
right?
Come on.
Have entrance music.
I don't need to see Donald Trump oiled up. No, not my thing.
No, but just let them let them put a show on.
No, right? They will.
Because there is a good argument that actually that would make the debates better, right? Is if you increase the entertainment value. It's this very weird thing where everyone's like, I just want the policies.
Get so far from presidential. America is the world's superpower. You cannot be a clown. I mean, you can, but it just sucks.
I would argue that there have been people on both sides of the aisle who have done clowny things over the last 50 years.
Yes. But I'm just saying appearances to the rest of the world matter.
Of course.
Putin's watching the debate. Everybody's watching the debate.
I don't know if this is true. You should Google this. I read that Putin endorsed Harris.
What?
That's what I read on the
Well,
internet.
come on.
Is it? Is there a legitimate?
It says Trump.
There's a legitimate news source that reported it?
Yeah. Trump takes offense to Putin's alleged endorsement of Harris.
Who wrote that?
Yahoo?
Yeah. Okay. So.
In HuffPost.
Yeah, I do think that is true. I mean, I Googled for 5 seconds and I saw enough people who must be true.
Oh, no. Putin trolls the race. Come on.
He trolls them?
That's according to CNN.
But he did.
Vladimir Putin raised eyebrows Thursday when he expressed his support for Harris's presidential bid.
But see, this is the problem.
Flattering the Democratic nominee with curiously timed
This is the problem,
remarks.
right? Is some news sources say Putin endorses Harris,
listen
and then CNN comes out and says that he trolls.
But listen to this. Listen to this quote. Our favorite, if you can call it that, was the current president, Mr. Joe Biden, but he was removed from the race and he recommended all his supporters to support Ms. Harris. Well, we will do so. We will support her, Putin said. She laughed so expressively and infectiously that it means that she is doing well. Come on, that's a troll comment. Putin had no bone in his body as he genuinely enjoying her laughter. Come on.
You don't know.
No. Oh, but he also criticized former president and current Republican nominee Donald Trump for placing so many restrictions and sanctions against Russia like no other president has ever introduced before him. Of course. So maybe Putin he obviously wants Harris for his personal reasons.
I'm just saying there's a lot of facts flying around out there. All right.
Wait,
you got anything else?
Yes. If you got the chance to interview Trump and Harris, what would you ask them that they haven't talked about previously? Or do you think it would be?
Who knows? Maybe we'll have a chance. All right, guys.
Dun.
That's the end of today. If you get a chance, we are going to do a mailbag section next week. So leave a question in the comments that you'd love to hear us talk about. It could be on any topic. We'll pick a couple of them. And at the end of next week's episode, we'll do our best to kind of lightning round, answer as many of them as we can. So whatever's on your mind, whatever question you got for us, leave in the comments. We'll go ahead. We'll pick our favorite ones. And then next week, if you tune in, we'll call out who asked it, what the question is, and then we'll give our answers. But we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
And since I'll be picking the questions,